Good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful Saturday morning here in Nashville. I was out today. It was 27 degrees when I went outside. I actually went to a pancake breakfast up in Madison, and ate a lot of pancakes and a lot of sausages and saw some folks. And then I got back here in time to greet Caleb Hemmer, who is our new state representative from the 59th district in representing Nashville. So Caleb, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Very, very happy to be here. Appreciate you taking time to chat and catch up on all things going on at the legislature, and looking forward to this conversation.
Well, I don't. Nothing's really going on up there, right? It's pretty quiet at this point, right?
So, yeah, something like that. So we wish it was quieter.
Yeah.
That's one
I
thing.
wish it was quieter too.
Quieter, but yeah.
Well, so Councilmember John Rutherford is on. Good morning, Councilmember, and we may have some other people jump in. As most people know who watch this show, for the first couple of minutes, we basically just talk about something irrelevant for the first couple of minutes until we let people jump on. And usually I talk about something that's behind you, but it's all blurry back there, so I have no idea what's back there behind you.
Yeah, this is my office / guest bedroom.
Okay.
Otherwise known as Grammy's room, when my in-laws come and stay with us.
I go. So, but tell me about your hat, since I can't see.
Yeah, so I've got this. So I'm a big baseball cap wearer, and particularly on the weekends and stuff. And so my wife got this for me as a present when I started running, because she said, you always like wearing baseball caps, but you got to wear something a little nicer than your old dirty baseball cap. So she got me this nice state flag baseball cap that was by Volunteer Traditions, which is a great shop on 8th Avenue. It was a guy that started that, went to UT with me, and does a lot of interesting apparel, all states, but kind of specialized on Tennessee. A lot of state flag ties, and you'll see belts and memorabilia. It's a neat little shop, and you should drop by there sometime if you haven't had a chance.
So is that like did you wear that all the time during your campaign, or did you
Usually
switch up?
like events and stuff if I'm out? I'm one of those guys. I've always liked wearing a baseball cap. When I'm not in school or work, I just typically wear a baseball cap. So but again, I had like these old nasty dirty baseball caps that my wife wouldn't let me wear anymore. So
Good for her. Nobody wanted to see you.
Yeah, you know how that goes.
So I have a friend that I think collects hats. He's got hats from everywhere. So you may want to meet him. He may be in your district.
Okay,
he's got 8,000 hats.
Oh my gosh, I don't have
that many. But yeah, I think he just gets hats all the time. But he only wears them probably once. So then he puts them back and probably got some specialty closets. So anyway, you may want to talk to him. Anyway, I do like the hat, and I think it's like a signature. It could become, if you get some of those things and have your name put on the back, you can give them.
I think no one wants to see my name on that, but even me. So
if you did it right, we could just pull the string and it could come off.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, okay. Well, it's time to get started into the meat of this conversation. Again, Councilmember Rutherford is on. And our guest today is Caleb Hemmer, who is the new state representative. He represents District 59, and we are awfully glad he's here. He's also you're head of the Davidson County Legislative Delegation. Is that right?
Yeah. We typically, it's a bipartisan delegation of it's made up of anyone who represents a portion of Nashville, Davidson County in the legislature. So we have 14 members, I believe that's right. And each year or each 2-year cycle, it typically goes to a freshman. And so I was fortunate that my colleagues put me up for that and asked me. And so my job as the Davidson County delegation is to bring us together to talk about and put forth issues that are important to Davidson County. So when we meet, you are our last speaker and special guest, but we also bring together, just various interests. We brought NES right after the power outages went on. We've had members that'll say, hey, I want to talk about education. So we'll bring the Metro Schools leadership there. We've got some other sessions scheduled on transportation, et cetera. So we try to just put forth, policies and conversations together that betters Davidson County in the position that we want to be in at the state legislature.
Okay. All right. And that may come up in more of the conversations we talk about in just a minute. But my first question always to everybody that I've had on the show is, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Where you're from, what have you been doing all these years, and how in the world did you decide to run for the state?
Good. Well, first and foremost, I am a State Representative Caleb Hemmer. I represent the 59th House District, which encompasses the entire southern border of Davidson County. So really from Bellevue all the way to Cane Ridge. So it's a very wide swath of Nashville neighborhoods that encompasses part of Bellevue, Westmead, Hillwood, Bellmead, Forest Hills, parts of southern Green Hills, Oak Hill, parts of Creve Hall, and then when you cross kind of the Old Hickory Boulevard down 65 kind of corridor, southern part of Brentwood, or I guess the southern Davidson County portion of Brentwood, all the way into Cane Ridge, and stops right there at 24 at Old Hickory Boulevard. So pretty varied district. I'm a lifelong Nashvilleian. I live in Forest Hills with my family. I've got a wife and two small, very active kids, and just have always been interested in politics and being involved in government. I started out in college working for Senator Henry, Douglas Henry, who was a main staple and mainstay here in Davidson County, and it was my first kind of foray into government politics, and then ended up going into the legislative internship program 20 years ago this week. So it's pretty crazy going from an intern to a member, but really loved the institution, loved being able to help people at scale. And it was really kind of hooked on it from early age. I never thought I would do this at where I am at in my life, but sometimes you kind of have to go after the opportunities that are open. And so when redistricting occurred last year, the former member in the seat decided not to run, and it created this actually it ended up being the most competitive district in the state, right here in Davidson County. So it took someone who had a good background and could raise money and run a tough race. And so I was fortunate enough to have a lot of colleagues and people in the community reach out to me and express interest about running. And I thought surely my wife would save me from all this, and she said, no, you should do this. And I thought surely my mom will talk me out of this, and she said, surely you need to do this. And so I jumped in about a year ago this week into the race. And professionally, I work in healthcare. I do kind of sales and strategy work for a post-acute care company. So working kind of senior care industry, in insurance and clinical services, and just really proud to give back to my community. I forgot to also mention, after being an intern, I ended up working in the state legislature under Governor Bredesen, and had a chance to work with you for many years on his legislative team as well. And so really had a lot of great mentors, including Governor Bredesen, Matt Kisber, who was a former member and commissioner of ECD, Senator Henry, and others who really showed me how to be, how you can get stuff done in government, how you can be normal, thoughtful, proactive, and really just kind of do things a lot differently. And you see, I feel like a lot of political folks in today's environment. And so I really felt called to do this, felt called to run. I knew I had a lot to offer and a unique set of skill sets of actually getting stuff done. And I'll say lastly, I was on the fair board, and I had a chance to work with you as well on the Metro Fair board for the last 7 years or so, but and had to resign in order to run for this. So,
well, tell me, All right, so we'll start talking about legislation in a minute, but
Mhm.
tell me what it's like to, and you were sworn in on January the, whatever, the second Tuesday
Mhm. Yep.
of January. Um, Tell me what it's like as a freshman legislator, both from the perspective of just being a freshman legislator, and then also being one of the few. We don't have a lot of Democrats up in the legislature right now. What is it like being up there right now?
Yeah. Um, it's definitely interesting. To part of your first question, being a freshman, you don't really get a lot of time to be prepared. It really is drinking out of a fire hose. And I'm coming from a place where I knew a lot of the systems, the processes, the lingo. But for me, I came from a very, very hard race. Got elected in November, and a lot of the other legislators already elected. They're working on their 23 legislative portfolio all throughout the year. You spend a lot of time having to research and do bills. I wasn't able to do a lot of that because I had to worry about getting elected first.
Mhm.
uh, and so I'm a pretty voracious reader, but I'd always keep like articles of interest, things I thought were messed up, and kind of kept a little list in the back of my head, but I didn't get to do a lot of the research and things of that nature. So you get about bill filing deadline was this Monday. So really, I had just a few months, and then actually less than that when you start talking about actual time, getting a staff. I've only had a staff member for about a month, and so didn't have a lot of time to kind of jump in and really work on my legislative portfolio. You're out, building relationships with these new members. I've got a pretty big freshman class, which is good and bad in some ways. So, I've got about 18 members that are freshmen, both in the House and Senate. And so spend a lot of time building relationships because, you see the stuff on the news and, all the political stuff gets all the headlines, but 95% of the stuff we work on is not, I'd call nonpartisan or is not, headline grabbing type of stuff. And so I'm focused on a lot of that, a lot of those kind of policy portfolios, things that are bipartisan, that are common sense, that are, I call them kitchen table issues versus the, lightning rod type of stuff. And so I've been focusing my time on, getting my legislative portfolio up and going, deciding which bills. We only get 15 bills as a House member. Senators get more than that, but actually they don't have a limit. But so you really have to pick and choose on what you feel like you can do and support and work these committees. Committees didn't get established till a couple of weeks ago as well. So long story short, I've just had to spend a lot of time getting up to speed very, very quickly. So that's mostly what I've been doing. As far as being a freshman, like I said, I've had a lot easier job than most because I knew a lot of the people, the processes, but still, it's still a lot. I mean, the technology, everything changed a lot since I worked down there previously 12 years ago, which seems like a lifetime ago. But there's all kinds of new stuff. Being a member is a lot different than being a legislative aide and a member in the governor's cabinet. So I'm just trying to be humble, trying to build relationships, trying to be thoughtful in how I approach my job, how I go about being a legislator, as well as still having to maintain a day job, as well as still having to do a lot of family items. As I mentioned, got a young kid. A lot of the folks that are come up to Nashville and legislators, they get the oh, or I'm away from home. I don't have to go to the community meetings and stuff like that. People who are in Nashville still want you to do this kind of thing. So there's really not a day off. I've not had a day off, since, in a long time. I mean, I work 7 days a week, it's and checking emails, things of that nature. So long story short, it's drinking out of a fire hose, but I knew what I signed up for. But just trying to get a good groove and trying to build good processes.
I think it's it may be hard for people to understand how busy you can get, particularly, and the point that you made about, because you're in Nashville, the work. I mean, you're trying to. I mean, a lot of legislators. I mean, they come in from East and West Tennessee. they're here for, they come in Monday, they leave Thursday. And it's hard for them. In terms of job wise, they've got to be down here. You're here, so you've got to keep going with what you're doing in terms of a job. And like you said, your neighborhood meetings are not 300 miles away. They're here.
Yeah.
You got to do that as well.
Yeah. And I have an interesting district as well. So, I put it into play. I had the highest turnout, the highest vote total of any House seat. I had nearly 30,000 people vote in an off-year election that was over 50% turnout. Whereas some state legislators in the same county, John Ray Clemens, Justin Jones, others, they had like 6,000 to 8,000. So I really did have so many more people that are engaged or involved, in their communities, in a lot of levels. So, I get a lot of phone calls and emails. And so just, it's just trying to find the balance. That's kind of one of my number one things I've been trying to do, as well as focusing my luckily we're have a little bit easier than you, and we actually get a staff member that is budgeted. So really try to be responsive to constituents. I mean, that was always a pet peeve of mine when I was, trying to email or let my feelings known to state legislators and whatnot on issues that I care about, is, let them take the time to at least say, hey, I hear you, taking that into approach. It's been really, really rewarding. I mean, I reach out to a lot of people. For example, yesterday I reached out to a constituent of mine, community leader expert in this area I was looking to research about, and it was just blown away that I would call him. I'm like, well, you're the expert. I'm not. I'm trying to learn how this is going to affect our city and affect different mechanisms. And so we try to be experts in everything, but we're human too. And I rely on a lot of people that I know and trust, as well as those I don't, to try to get the information I need to be forthright and helpful.
Tell me, okay, what committees are you serving on?
So I've got a healthcare background, and so I was fortunate enough to get on healthcare or health committee and insurance committees, as well as having a background previously in state government. So I got put on, it's called government operations. So it's a little bit of a wonky committee for those that aren't familiar with the state legislature, but it's focused more on reviewing government rules, as well as ensuring government operations are in order. You have to renew state departments and authorize them. So you get to really learn the inner workings of state government, which is good. It's kind of a little bit of a freshman pittance. I feel like there's a lot of freshmen that get put on that just because they do meet year round. It's kind of, like I said, wonky, very thankless work, but I find it really interesting, and it's helpful for me to get up to speed, as well as I'll make sure state agencies are accountable to the constituents and that we serve, and that taxpayers here in Tennessee.
So and let me ask you about that. And I don't think I think most people who pay attention to the legislature know this, but how do you, as a freshman coming in, did you have a chance? Did they send out a memo to you or a letter and say, okay, Representative, which committees would you like to serve on?
Yeah, they luckily did. Speaker did a good job in a lot of ways. I picked health insurance and state government committee. I didn't get state government, but I got government op. So I got 2 out of 3 I requested. But again, like, I have a healthcare background. You want experts who know. I mean, so many people that are legislators, lobbyists, state departments, they're just happy that they don't have to explain acronyms and processes and stuff like that. It makes their job really easy. That I understand these markets, I understand what's going on, and that's what you want. You want people that are expertise, former educators usually, or teachers or principals. They're going on the education committee. So anyway, the speaker gets to pick the committees, lieutenant governor and the Senate. And so that they do a good job of putting people where their interests are, as well as where their backgrounds are, to put forth the best possible policies we can for Tennessee.
Yeah. So we, in terms of the council, we do the same thing at the beginning of the term. Yeah. And everybody has to be on budget committee. So it's a matter of just trying to, try to figure out what you've got, because that's everybody knows that's where they want to be. That's where some of the power is.
Yep.
Okay, tell me about particularly as a freshman, there are 99 state representatives and 33 senators. How do you go about meeting all these people? So you talked about the importance of, developing relationships, getting your
Yeah.
feet under you as you go into this thing. But there are, people from, up near Mountain City, and people from, Northwest Tennessee, that somehow you've got to find and meet. So how do you
Yeah.
do?
It's hard. I still haven't met everybody, and that's also harder too. A lot of these guys, especially from out of state, went guys and gals. There's a lot of events afterwards. There's receptions, there's luncheons, there's all this stuff, and so I typically go home. I don't go to a lot of the receptions unless I have constituents there or a reason to do that. I try to be home for bedtime and dinner for little kids, so it's a little harder for me in that regard. So I just try to find people when I can in their offices. I'm also, a little dirty secret too. You try to be, nice and get to know their staffs, because the staffs are really how you get to, they're the gatekeepers in a lot of the ways. So I've been fortunate, at least our freshmen get together a lot for orientations, for meetings, for trainings. And so I've spent a lot of time with freshmen, and so starting to build bonds with freshmen, and then others I'm just, when I get a chance to meet them, learn about, go in their offices, just any chance I get to learn them, learn about them, learn about, their backgrounds. It's the old how to win friends and influence people book. What's the sweetest sound to someone is their name, and so just getting to know them, who they are, what they're about, because it really is so much about building these relationships. And I'm a sales guy at heart, professional background, and have been down there doing legislative work before, and so I can't tell people how important that is. So really just trying to do that however I can.
Okay. One more question before we get into some of the stuff that's going on, some of the legislation that's been filed,
Yeah.
Particularly in Davidson County. Tell me about, obviously you're a freshman, so you're just learning how this process works. But tell me about some of the legislation you're carrying that's in your portfolio, particularly the thing with regarding permanent standard time. I think people might be.
Yeah, I'll start out with that. And actually had that got brought to me by Senator Heidi Campbell, and a Vanderbilt professor. And so for those that don't know, last year the U.S. Senate passed going to a permanent standard time 100-0, and I don't know many things that get passed excuse me, the United States Senate 100-0. Unfortunately, it did get brought up in the House, but it's just something that, from a health benefit, from a, process benefit, we're moving that direction, that daylight savings time to go away. And so what what our bill does is kind of put it together with the rest of the southern states that are contiguous to us, that in the Southeast, that say when we all pass this same bill to go to a permanent standard time, that we'll do that versus doing a switch at daylight savings time. And so that would be a little be a lot better. So many people complain about it. The US House, now it's switched over, may change that. They may pass the Senate version, or it may get redone. I don't know which would be the easiest thing if Congress did it, but we felt like this is kind of the smart thing to do, to kind of stick with our peers who are evaluating the same thing, just in case Congress does not pass it. So that's one thing. Again, I'm kind of focusing on kitchen table issues. Healthcare, I've got a bill about a CMS, or a federal program called PACE, that we're doing in Chattanooga. This is a really cool proven model that works nationwide to provide better care for senior populations. So we've been doing this in Chattanooga for 30 years. It has not been expanded to any other place across the state, so I want to do that. I've also done establishing a pilot program working with Senator Lamar about creating doula services. We have so much maternal mental health, maternal outcomes issues, particularly in minority populations. So doulas have been shown to provide as evidence-based medicine, a lot better outcomes, as well as having some maternal mental health training within the medical education requirements. In terms of crime and safety, put forth legislation about guns being stolen in cars, particularly being unlocked. Senator Yarborough and I are working on this. This is something we're really passionate about. It's going to get a lot of attention. Tennessee's #1 in the country per capita for getting guns stolen out of cars. We're here in Davidson County alone, we had over 1,328, I think, or around that in 2022, and these are guns going directly in the hands of criminals. So it's a huge issue. Education, I've got 2 bills, one involving reforming, updating the teacher evaluation program. I've got a bill around, this is a great bipartisan bill. I'm really excited about this. If you've heard of lab schools, a university lab school, so it's when a university can partner with their local education agency, so LEA, which would be like Metro Nashville Public Schools, to create a school. So University of Memphis has this. It's the #1 school in Shelby County. ETSU has one within their community. That's a great thing for the school employees as well. But we're not allowed to have, in terms of the code, not allowed for private schools, private universities to do that. So put forth legislation if you're SAC accredited, which is a very, very high accreditation standard. So Lipscomb, Vanderbilt, for example, they could create these type of schools. Done a few fairness things, I'll call it. I did a bill about pay transparency with Senator Oliver around making sure employers post job pay ranges. I've got a bill with Senator Campbell around cracking down on third-party resellers. It's gotten a lot of, like Ticketmaster, et cetera. It's got a lot of attention, and looking forward to that. I got a few affordable housing issues I've been working on. One, working with Representative Dixie around creating a Medicaid housing program that other states have done through a waiver, like Arizona or Oregon, that helps our homeless population transitional. As well as got an issue I'm working on. It's probably going to take me a while, but we've got a huge issue around private equity, publicly traded companies that are buying these starter homes for and it's essentially creating a marketplace where normal people can't compete with these folks coming in, paying a higher amount, paying cash buy, and so they're essentially ripping the equity opportunities away from middle income and people starting their lives. And then lastly, I got a number of bills related to voting rights and making it easier to vote. So full slate.
It sounds like a full slate. Well, 2 things. One is, are you going to get to meet Taylor Swift? Are you going to call her in for hearings?
I need to. Well, actually, I'm doing this because of my legislative assistant. She was a Swiftie fan who did not get tickets like a lot of people. And she was really sad and really passionate about this. And I said, hey, if you want to do something, research the bill, and we'll look at doing it. And she did a great job. So the 2 things that our bill is focused on is transparency, is so allowing to make sure the fees are shown on the front end instead of your checkout box. So New York did this legislation. It's been very popular. And the second is around holdbacks. So not people realize this, but there's typically less than half the tickets that go on sale are actually going to fans at the for sale date. There's a lot of times there's like VIP credit cards, fan clubs, which we do want. But there have been instances where it's been abused and only like 7% of the tickets went on sale. And so we picked those 2 things to plug. Representative Bo Mitchell has got a bill around fees. But it was interesting, this week, White House released a junk fees legislative and policy slate, and they one of the things they targeted was the ticket industry, and the 3 things they wanted to target were holdbacks, fee transparency, and these service fees, and so we really feel like we hit the nail on the head on that, and really excited about that.
All right, well, if I've got Taylor's phone number, she calls me all the time, bugs me. So, if you need,
tell her to call me. We'll get it going.
Just kidding. Just kidding about that. The other thing is, I will tell you that that lab school at East Tennessee State University, that's where I went to school.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I went to University School in Johnson City.
Okay. Well, I don't know if that'll help or hurt my bill, but
Probably don't tell anybody if you think it'll hurt it.
okay. Well, that's good to know. I'll have to say that. Yeah. So we're really excited about that. I'm very hopeful. I have not had any universities bring this to me. I just thought this was the right thing to do. It makes sense. I've had some universities talk about this in the past and show interest in it, but it makes complete sense. You think about all the collaboration that can be done with students, with university professors. It's a helpful thing for the employees that have a school on campus for their kids, and the outcomes are second to none. So we're really excited about this.
Well, one little secret that you I'll share with everybody that might help you, at least with some of the understanding of the bill, is that Senator Rusty Crowe went to university school as well in Johnson City.
Okay.
All right. So you may want to talk.
That. I'll talk to him. I'll talk to him. Good to know. All right.
Yeah. So Senator Crowe likes to say that he and I went to school together. He was university school in Johnson City is 1 through 12 grades. He was in a much higher class when we were there together. Okay.
Good intel.
Okay. So let's talk about all this legislation that is that has been filed quickly. Obviously, there was a time deadline to get the legislation filed, but a lot of it is being thrown at us fairly quickly in terms of Davidson County. One is this: we had Dewey Branstetter on a couple weeks ago to talk about the bill reducing the size of the council and how that works, how it impacts the law, how it impacts the Metro Charter, all those things. And that one has moved. It went through House City Subcommittee on Wednesday. So it's moving in the House. And I didn't check to see where it was in the Senate, whether they put it on notice to be on committees this week. But that one's coming. There's a bill to get rid of a part of the convention center funding. I forget whether it was to take it back to the state, but it gets it out of the way, gets it out of the form in the way we help pay back the bonds to pay for the convention center. There's a bill regarding the airport authority. I think there's a bill regarding the sports authority here in Nashville. There's a bill now that's been filed by Senator Pody to eliminate community oversight boards. And then I know there's other bills coming. I think I heard that there's a bill coming to, if it's not already out there, to deal with community benefit agreements, because we've had some of those in Nashville, just to eliminate that. And then obviously everybody heard yesterday that there's now a bill filed to rename at least a part of John Lewis Way, which is downtown, after Donald Trump. A lot of that stuff is being thrown at us very, very quickly, and we're trying to get a handle on it. But I guess from your perspective, and you can look at it differently. I'm a product of the legislature, sort of like you are, and I can count votes, and I know how many votes they have if they want to pass this stuff. So you have to deal with it. And so from your perspective, particularly both as a freshman legislator in Davidson County, but also as head of the delegation, tell me what you can about all this stuff that all of a sudden is being thrown at us all at the same time.
Yeah, I think folks, especially here in Nashville, find it very exhausting. It is not something that even it's pure politics at its worst, unfortunately. But you think about the issue at play here. I mean, there's not a lot of. I doubt there's one person that ran on the the platform of screwing over Nashville. It is all just political, repudiation, payback, etc. It's the politics of pettiness at its worst. So my hope is cooler heads prevail. As you mentioned, the votes are not looking good right now. This is likely going to be a lot of court legal battles down the fray. But my job as the Davidson County delegation chairs, is to try to impact this and protect and proactively, do what's best for Nashville as possible. So we're having very, very thorough and frank discussions, both in the committee meetings, but especially behind the scenes. When I talk to people, in the community, people that call me about this issue, there is, this isn't for the council, for example, this isn't a number issue, is 20 better than 40, whatever. This is at its heart of, it's his big brother government trying to, put its way on little brother. And it's pretty crazy in the grand scheme of things. That is a pure political play. The more worrisome stuff is the structural bills you mentioned, taking away the sports authorities, the airport authorities, the Music City Center, and a lot of this has to do with bonding and the huge amount of monies that are and then involved in those entities. And that is scary in a grand scheme of things. That Music City Center is a good example. You take away the tourist development zone, what happens in reality is, there's a large chunk of the revenue that goes back to the state instead of the city having that to pay the bond debt. So then, therefore, the city is required through its covenants to back that debt up. So that's a huge hole that the Metro One would have to pay out of general obligations or other mechanisms if possible. It's still such a huge hole that it just would create a very, very wide and reverberating effects throughout the metro finances. It would also have a catastrophic chilling effect to our ability to bond any other debt throughout all of these type of entities. A good example is when I was on the fair board, we had bonding authority, but we did not use it. We let the sports authority do the bonding for the fairgrounds stadium because they were used to doing that. The market was used to doing that. The market felt comfortable with them paying back those debts. So if you start messing with this, I've used the analogy, you're pulling the heart out of a $9 billion industry, and you think about the jobs, the other impacts that the ripple effects that could occur. This is serious issues at play here, and not ones that we should be trifling around about in a political payback schemes. This is affects the heart and ability to run a functional government, and that is what I'm most worried about. And I'm hopeful, and I'll be calling on our colleagues, a broader scale this week about, seeing if we can take a pause and a breath to make sure we understand the effects that these bills would have on our economy.
Well, and so when you look at particularly the convention authority and what that could do to the city and to its ability to function and also its ability to do further projects. Some of these bills are, I worry, you almost put them on a scale, and maybe that's part of what's going on is that, that one obviously has serious implications for both, I would think, the city and the state in terms of, if the state if the city can put together a giant proposal that accepted, and we sell bonds to pay for this stuff, and we get the revenues back to pay back the bonds, and then the state can pull some of that revenue away or back, all of a sudden the city is left looking at this thing, trying to figure out how to pay this stuff so we don't fail on our obligations. But if the state can do that with anything, then who's gonna trust any type of bonding capacity?
Exactly. This is a lot of unintended consequences. This doesn't just affect Nashville. If I'm a bond seller or in that bond market, I'd be second guessing doing any bond in Tennessee, or at least I'd be doing it and creating enough interest in it where it's worth the risk. So again, you're increasing the cost for taxpayers. So this is not just going to affect Nashville if these proposals go forward, which I'm very hopeful that they won't. And it's just political posturing. But this could have very dire effects across the entire state of Tennessee.
Okay, so most people would want to go, okay, and go back. The bill that's moving right now is the one to decrease the size of the council. And we're obviously, all of us are kind of involved in that, trying to figure out a way to, I think the position that we've taken, which I think is the right position, is that, look, this is Davidson County. This is how Nashville and Davidson County are governed. It should be allowed. The government is decided by the people who live here, and they should decide, not somebody else. But that doesn't seem to be working right now, that argument.
No.
And so, we're trying to figure out a way to look. I mean, I think when we had Dewey Branstetter on a couple weeks ago, the idea of, look, if Davidson County decided that they wanted a smaller government, they wanted 20 members, they wanted 25, whatever. It's in this country, the people decide their government. They decide who represents them and who doesn't represent them. And they, in this case, the charter, the statute allows for metropolitan forms of government and a charter. So I think what we're trying to deal with is, how do we deal with this situation when we know we don't have the votes up on the Hill and they can pass this?
Yeah.
So,
and again, we're taking the legislative approach right now, but at the end of the day, I mean, this is a legal issue as well. I mean, there is no way you can go from 40 to 20 or whatever that number is reduction and keep the same number of minority representation and majority minority districts in the council. And therefore that makes this a federal civil rights issue. And if they want to, upset the apple cart and, and go down and have a very expensive drawn out federal court issue, then that is what will have to happen. Because again, when you're taking away people's rights, particularly civil rights, as afforded to by the Constitution and the federal government, then we have to, protect our interests.
So, let me ask you this. I was just looking at a question that came in about the street naming, but like everything else, like particularly this bill, there are different ways of looking at all this stuff. You can look at it one way or look at it the other way. But one of the things, I got to testify in front of city subcommittee, and I didn't get all the way through my testimony. But one of the things I was going to say was that at some point we need to put down all the battle stuff and realize that we're important to each other. Nashville may disagree, or the citizens of Nashville may disagree with some of the pressing social issues that the legislature is doing. Legislature may disagree with some of the stuff that we're trying to do, but that's a part of how we govern ourselves, is that majority rules. I understand that, but you want to exchange ideas and at least be able to listen and understand and try to learn from each other. I guess the question here, which is a little bit more difficult, is you're up in the middle of all this. I think what I was trying to say was that we need to work with each other. I don't really want everybody suing each other. That just adds to the situation.
Yeah.
And so
it's a lot of the tit for tat, and that's what a lot of people worry. It's a never ending cycle. So how do we break that? And that's what I'm hoping to, cooler heads prevail, and we talk about that, and everybody take a step back, and then we can come back to the table. And once we've taken a breath and then see how we can work through these issues.
Well, and I guess, I mean, you've been a legislator for all of 3 weeks or whatever.
Technically 3 weeks.
Officially sworn in for about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's a tall order I mean, because, I mean, we know how votes go. And so what you're asking for is what I think is proper, and that is everybody take a step back before we, I know that people may be mad at each other, and they may be mad at some of the stuff that has happened within Davidson County. And I'm sure we got people in Davidson County who are mad about what's happened, up on the Hill. But at some point, we got to figure out a way to get along, or else more of this is going to come. And I don't see that as being good for either side.
Agreed.
And
Completely agreed.
And let me ask, because the street naming came up.
Yep.
The council renamed Fifth Avenue. It would be Fifth Avenue North after John Lewis for the wonderful things that he did in terms of civil rights and what he did as a voice for good trouble and good change, and what he did up in Washington and around the country. But now there's a bill that's been brought. I know that it's an outside senator. It's not from somebody here, and I assume it's not from a representative from here, renaming. I'm not even sure. I haven't seen the bill, but renaming at least part of John Lewis Way after former President Trump. And I know that's just going to. It's almost as if what we're trying to do is what you're talking about, and that is bringing all sides to the table so we can have a good exchange of conversation. This just adds to
Fuel to the fire.
Yeah, it just adds something to it.
Yeah. This has been pretty infuriating, and I read about it much like everyone else did in the paper, and was surprised to see it. And so I'm hopeful this is a posturing and not going to happen. I mean, to kick off Black History Month with again ripping the heart out of a street that's named after an icon, John Lewis, who has rich history in Nashville as well. To name it for a polarizing figure was just very, very poor taste. And so we'll be fighting against that, like the other things we've mentioned too. And it is. It does have, I think one of your questionnaires, it does have some other consequences to it. It allows other cities, including Forest Hills, who's trying to do a good thing and change their street names that they have they're based on some Confederate naming designations, and it'll allow them to do that. However, they're already in court. I think they have the ability to do that anyway. And so anyway, that hopefully will be figured out as well. But it's just silly season down there. Bill filing deadline was this week, so a lot of these things have kind of bubbled up at the last minute. So as things move through the process, we'll see how serious these things are. I mean, a lot of this is designed just to sow chaos and to get everybody worked up, and not focus on the things that they are doing that are very discriminatory or really do have some other serious consequences, and not focusing on focus on these shiny objects instead of the stuff that we really care about as a community, which is education, safety, jobs, economy, things that we actually ran on, healthcare, et cetera. And instead of things that divide us, like these polarizing topics you mentioned.
I'm listening to talk, and it's just more and more and more. Somebody described it yesterday to me as whiplash, because I'll tell you, when I start thinking about this, it's like, where do I go? And that may be a part of it. Where, what do I need to focus on? And then all of a sudden something else that gets filed over here, and it's like, so it's whiplash. You're going like, I'm looking here, and then something else happens over here. I know the bill filing deadline was this week. Can you tell us, is there anything else? I mentioned that I had heard that there's a bill coming to deal with committee benefit agreements, and I think trying to eliminate those. I'm not even sure legally whether that's a possibility or not, because Metro is not tied into those. Community benefits agreements, or if the developer is going to do a project, ties in with the community to do certain things, like whether you're going to do this, or you're going to hire, you're going to use certain people to work on different projects or other stuff. It's tied into the community and the work crews and things like that. And I believe what I'm hearing is that there is a bill being designed to get rid of those. Have you heard anything else up there in terms of anything else that might be coming our way?
I've not seen that yet. We had about 800 plus pieces of legislation get filed this week, so I'm still going through those, much like my email box. But so I don't know. I've not had a chance to look at that. I think I've had my hands full with the stuff we already mentioned this week. But again, any representative, any senator is allowed to put forth a bill. Most of these are coming from outside of Nashville, putting forth these Nashville punitive bills, which is just befuddling to me. But again, I'm not trying to be Pollyannish, but I am trying to put a positive spin on it, and I hope cooler heads do prevail. A lot of political posturing goes on, whether it's through tweets, press releases, or bills. But things that actually get passed or get worked on, are a little bit fewer, far between, luckily. And I'm hoping a lot of these things that are negatively affect our community go along the same path.
All right, and we're close to being out of time. A little less than 10 minutes left. Couple more questions. One, I personally have been so focused on trying to do with the council bill that it's hard for me to keep up with the other things. And people listening or watching the show, this coming week may say the same thing. It's like, how do I keep up with all this? And that's a question to you, I guess, and to maybe speak on behalf of other members of the Davidson County delegation.
No, it's a good
how do we keep up with this instead of just watching it on the news? If people are interested in keeping up with this stuff, is there a way for them to track individual bills?
There's a great tool on our website. And actually, we've just added the capital.tn.gov website. You can set a username and password. You can track these bills, see when they're up in committee. You can get emailed things, so you can track them just like I do. It'll actually allow you to see the same type of viewing that we see if there's amendments and red lines. So it's a new tool that the speaker rolled out this year, which is going to be very, very helpful. Following along in the media is probably the best thing. There's several good Twitter followers as well. Just I think all the stuff we talked about. I think I call out Tennessee Holler does a great job of following kind of these politically polarizing bills. Tennessee Lookout, Tennessean, Axios Nashville as well has a newsletter that comes out every day. So I'd urge people to stay engaged, informed, as well as reach out to your elected officials. If you have friends in some of these counties, the Williamson County Senator is the one who is putting forth the Music City Center bill. So a lot of you, everybody on this call probably has a friend in Williamson County that they can call and say, call your senator and tell them that's a really bad idea. And so, being engaged and informed is probably the best first step.
And the next question was going to be, if people are watching and they don't like some of this legislation, obviously, this is still America. This is where citizens have a voice. And so if they don't like a piece of legislation, I think you probably just answered it, but me sending a letter to my state representative hopefully is going to say something because I'm a constituent. But if everybody sends a letter to a senator who's sponsoring a piece of legislation that's not in Davidson County, they may look at it, but they're not their constituents. So
Yeah.
I think what you would probably recommend is if people want to have a voice, if they want to try to say, no, we're not for that, it's good to find people in the sponsoring senator or legislator's district to send letters in or make phone calls, because that is their constituents and they're supposed to be listening to them.
Yeah.
Is that,
Yeah.
did I say that
Very,
correctly?
very good way. And you could come to the committees as well. If this comes up, you can, make fit appointments with these members, but there's a lot of ways to have your voice heard. People listen. Phone calls work great. I get a lot of emails, a lot of form emails. I'm probably in the 1,000 this week alone, because I'm on the health committee, and the transgender bill is going to be up next week. And so, I look a little bit closer at the ones that have addresses, and I respond to the ones that are my constituents. The other form letters, I read them and I file them away. But people, are the good legislators are the ones that are very cognizant to those that they're in their district and responsive to the people in their district's concerns. I mean, even if I don't agree with them, I'm responding back to them and letting them know, thank you for reaching out and let me know your voice. I represent everybody. I don't just represent Democrats or Republicans, so I think most legislators really do care when people take time to reach out.
Well, and I will say, and this may apply to you as well, that when we get lots of form letters, we read the first one and then we see the second one. It's like that one looks just like the first one. And then you start seeing them come in and it's like, okay, I get it. And then I do think I look to see where they come from. And if people sign them, but they do not put their zip code or where they're from, they could be coming from Texas for all we know, or, California or Montana. We don't know where they're coming from. So you kind of just put those to the side because you just don't know. The other thing I'll tell people is that we do get form letters that say, dear, put your name here, and people forget to do that correctly. And so at the bottom, it's like, concerned citizen, put your name here. So they're sending them in without identifying who they are. They're just sending in a form letter.
Yeah.
So we tend to be careful with those. Let me ask you, we got time for one last question. Somebody on the call asked about this, the permanent standard time. I know that it passed the Senate 100 to nothing. It didn't get taken up by the U.S. House of the Congress. What do you think? Do you think it has a chance of passing?
I don't know. I feel like it's pretty bipartisan. I've had people are very, very fervent about it. I think once it gets going, people will get behind it. It's really, I don't know how business and other folks have turned, but it used to be kind of an enigma or something very odd. I remember seeing this, 20 years, I used to be against it, 20 years ago, and I had kids and saw how it affects and how, and just how the world's kind of said, oh, it's maybe not we're not an agrarian society anymore, and agrarian, predominant society, and how that's probably not the best and does a lot of negative health effects too. The health effects was most surprising. I work in healthcare. I did some work in the sleep industry as well, and so it really is pretty interesting once you start getting into the science behind it as well. So I'm hopeful it will. Again, it was something that's kind of brought to me, and I'm gonna do what I can to see it through. And but it also, we've got some other states that need to do it, as well as Congress decides to move it forward. Yeah. So we'll see.
Well, Caleb, we are out of time. I appreciate you taking the time this morning. I know that there's a lot of stuff going on. And last question, or at least to tell people, if they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Just my website. You can just Google me, Caleb Hemmer, but the legislature's website's got a web page for me. My rep .caleb.hemmer at capital.tn.gov. I'll just put it in the chat. And then that's probably the best way to get a hold of me, or you can call my office. Pretty accessible. And I would be remiss if I didn't. I see a few constituents on the call. See Roger Schechter, see Jed DeKalb, Council Lady Hauser has joined us as well. And so wanted to call out them. I'm sure I have a few more as well. I see Councilman Rutherford, hello. But want to thank everybody for taking time to join us, and appreciate everybody listening. If I can do anything to help, feel free to shoot me an email or call.
Well, Caleb Hemmer, State Representative, District 59. Thanks again for the time today. Thank you for what you're doing to help us. I can tell you as somebody who is obviously watching this stuff as well, Caleb is doing a magnificent job of trying to keep us all straight and keeping us online and trying to help us. And I know it's a tough task, but you're doing great.
I just got to fight the good fight.
Well, hang in there. Next week, we're going to Charlene Oliver, who is a new state senator, and we'll be talking about some of the same stuff. We'll probably have an update next week. So everybody tune in. But everybody have a good rest of the weekend. I know it's supposed to be warmer today. Go out and enjoy it. Have a great weekend. Have a great week. Keep up with us. There's a lot of stuff flying around, and hopefully we'll see everybody next week as well. All right. Yeah. Thanks, Caleb.